Welcome everyone to the final week of the ElevateHER Symposium. I'm Shirley, I'm hosting this presentation today, and it's my honor to introduce to you the final group from our 2021 ElevateHER cohort. This is Team She Is Welcome Here, and team members include Jana, Kaylee, Julie, Katie, Heather, and you'll hear from them very soon. But I'm just here while everyone is still coming into the Zoom room. I want to just go over a few housekeeping items. So at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will have the chat function. Feel free to put any comments or high fives or things like that in the chat. And there's also a Q&A question, Q&A portion for you to pose any questions for our speakers. We have allotted time at the end of the presentation for Q&A. So we really look forward to engaging with y'all. And without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Katie.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome to She's Welcome Back Here, a website for the facilitation of a returnship relationship in the AE industry. Our group came together with the intention of addressing the leak in the talent pipeline for mid-career women in the AE industry. Before we begin with the project details, we're going to take a moment to introduce ourselves and our intentions in developing this project. I'm Katie Goodman, Director of Leadership Programs at the American Council of Engineering Companies in Washington, D.C. As a coordinator of continuing education and for our industry, the presence of women and minorities in our highest level programs is missing. In attempting to build our most senior leaders, the need for a program that retains or recruits mid-career women became clear. Jana?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jana Duke with O'Connell Robertson. We are an integrated architecture, engineering, and interior design firm. I'm an associate principal at the firm, and I lead our interiors practice. And although my field of study is predominantly female, as I grow in my company, I look around and I see far fewer of us. I was really intrigued with this group and our mission to find one very specific leak in the pipeline and address that. I was fortunate to do it with a very talented group of individuals. We're excited to share this with you today and welcome you to meet Kaylee.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaylee Konechny. I'm the HR manager at Core Consultants. This project is important to me as an HR professional, a business leader, and a woman passionate about diversity and inclusion in the workplace, as I have experienced firsthand how impactful it is to have women and diverse teams represented throughout the organization. I hope you find today's tool exciting, and I hope to hear about it implemented in your organization in the future. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Calvert. I'm the COO at Core Consultants. And I think the thing that most appeals to me about this project is the business case for diversity. I love the fact that doing the right thing is also good for business. Additionally, this particular returnship program solves a problem I think many of us have right now, finding good people to join our firm. So, excited to present this.
Hello, I'm Julie Paslakwa. I'm the Structures Division Manager at Mark Thomas, which is a transportation engineering firm based in California. I've been an engineer for nearly 20 years, and while I've grown in my career, I am acutely aware of how few females there are around me the further I go up. I'm almost always the only female in the room, and that feeling of being the only, it wears on you over time. So I wanted to see that change, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I'm excited because I think the project that we're presenting to you today is going to be a part of that change. So we're going to kick off the presentation with a survey. And so the question is, what percentage of women leave the industry before they have 20 years of professional experience? So go ahead on your screen. You should be able to select from the 4 choices that are there, and then we'll share the results. All right, Shirley. So, I think most of us, I'm not surprised that we're looking at 52% and 70%. The answer is 70%, which really shocked me. 70% of the women leave the field before 20 years of experience, which is just staggering. So, Shirley, do I close? Oh, I do. That's fast. That's awesome. There we go. When we started on this project, we knew there was an issue with the female pipeline, and we knew that we were losing women specifically at the 6 to 10 year mark. But we wanted to have the data and the research to really prove it, so it wasn't just a hunch. And so we went on a fact-finding mission, and what we found to me was really staggering. It didn't just confirm what we thought was going on, it really painted a picture of a problem that we wanted to help solve. According to the Society of Women Engineers 2019 report on women in engineering by the numbers, 20% of engineering school grads are women, yet only 13% of practicing engineers are female. And 30% of women who have left the engineering profession cite organizational climate as the reason. So not just to go off and have a family, but really the culture within a company is one of the reasons that women are leaving the industry. But this isn't just an engineering problem. Nearly half of all architecture students are women, yet only 25% of licensed architects are female. And we find that female engineers are earning 10% less than their male counterparts. And lastly, 61% of women find that they have to prove themselves repeatedly to get the same level of respect and recognition as their colleagues. And while you might think this is a national issue, across all industries, the data says otherwise. The Bureau of Labor Statistics noted that 36% of lawyers and 41% of physicians or surgeons are women. So this really truly is an AEC industry problem. Now, all of this data I presented is from 2019. And if you'll recall, we had this little thing called a pandemic in March of 2020. And the impacts of that on women in the workforce has been substantial. According to the US Department of Labor, 3 million women have dropped out of the US labor force in the last year. And to put this into perspective, we are facing the steepest sustained decline in female labor force since World War II. Female workforce participation has already dropped to 57%, and that's the lowest level since 1988. According to research published by McKinsey, 1 in 4 women have considered leaving the workforce or downshifting their careers. So that's 25%, yet only 20% of men have considered leaving. And while all groups have been impacted by COVID, there are 3 groups that have been particularly hard hit, and those are working mothers, women in senior management, and Black women. Kaylee?
It's no question, diverse teams matter. We all know that. And companies with above average diversity on their leadership teams report a greater payoff from innovation and higher earnings. Let's talk about women specifically. An investigation into Fortune 500 companies showed that organizations with the greatest representation of women in management roles delivered a total return to shareholders that was 34% greater than companies with the lowest representation. But yet, women remain significantly underrepresented. A broken rung at the step up to manager is the biggest obstacle that women face to the path of leadership. So with that broken rung, we have like-minded leadership teams who come to conclusions faster, which seems like it could be a good thing. But in the end, the solutions aren't as great. Diverse teams create a bit of friction, which provide for greater innovation and better outcomes. Because while there's oftentimes more in-depth conversations, more discussions, and more thought put into it, plus a variety of experiences to pull from. Diverse teams use different perspectives when assessing a problem. They better reflect and know the market, allowing them to identify risks and trends at a higher level. So how do we recruit and retain our most valued asset, which are our employees? Like Kyle and Chad referenced this morning in the employee experience talk, recruiting is the #1 challenge faced by AEC firms. According to the 2021 Recruitment and Retention Report by Zweig, 62% of respondents state that they had an open position they would like to fill, with 21% of respondents stated that pandemic-related factors, including work from home, childcare, and workload changes, resulted in some of their staff resigning or requesting a reduction in hours. The majority of firms report hiring processes take 30 to 60 days on average. However, the more difficult or more senior level positions can take over 5 months to fill. Women are the first to exit the workforce based on family conversations about whose career takes priority. According to the 2020 Women in the Workplace report, as Julie referenced earlier, 1 in 4 women are now considering leaving the workforce or downshifting their careers due to COVID-19, with senior level women juggling professional and personal demands, citing burnout as the primary reason in almost 3 out of the 4 responses. A Society of Women Engineers study found women who tend to leave the AEC industry do so between the 6 to 10 year mark, noting barriers such as achieving their career goals and company goals due to a lack of cultural accountability. So company culture is driven by facts and data versus having conversations, having communication and professional development. A Harvard Business Review found that all too often, women fall victim to stereotypes and gender discrimination, being relegated to unsatisfying tasks like secretarial work and other tasks that are outside the engineering realm altogether. So with all of this, it's important to think outside of the box and how you can set your company from the pack by implementing programs to support women and diversity in the workplace. A strategy, or what we like to call another tool in your tool belt, is a returnship, something that Heather will talk about in greater detail now.
Thanks, Kaylee. I think the first thing we need to do is our second poll question. Are you familiar with the returnship program?
Shirley, do we have the results?
Yes, it looks like I couldn't share it, but we have 0% of any of the yes options, and we have 73% of the audience that have never heard of it, and the other 27% is they have heard of it but not familiar, but 0% yeses.
Wow.
I'm glad
Well,
you're here.
that's kind of awesome, because that's what we're going to talk about, is exactly what is a returnship. I think this quote helps me explain it in the simplest way possible, which is really, there are lots of exits off the highway of our lifetime work, but very few on-ramps. And returnships are one of those on-ramps. So what is a returnship? A little more detail. It's basically a back to work program that allows mid-career candidates to return to work and their careers without having to start from the bottom of the career ladder. Typically, they last anywhere from 6 to 16 weeks. It really kind of depends on the situation. The employer provides extra training and mentorship to get the returners caught up to the changes in the workforce. It's an opportunity for these returners to improve their skills so they can efficiently do their job again. However, it does require commitment from both the employer and the employee.
There we go.
There we go. So interestingly, returnship, the term, was trademarked by Goldman Sachs back in 2008. It wasn't really put into use much until about 2016, and really has become prevalent among stock-held firms in the last 2 or 3 years. So this is a sample of some of the companies that have active returnship programs. Audibles is called Next Chapter, which I think is awesome. Walmart's is called Path Forward. Chase's is Reentry. Hewlett Packard's program is called Work That Fits Your Life. And Barclays has a program entitled Encore. So a returnship, again, going back to kind of what Kaylee was talking about with that leak in the pipeline, that career rung that's broken. We're looking really at mid-career people with 5 years or more experience. Maybe they're licensed and they've participated in their field for some period of time before leaving the workforce. It's really not that different than an internship, other than the types of subjects that you address with the returner is slightly different. What are the benefits of the returnship? Well, it follows the arc of an employee's life, so it increases retention overall. It gives that employee the on-ramp to come back when they're ready back to engage back into the workforce. In retaining those employees, it also helps to improve gender and age diversity within the firm. It provides access to unique, highly professional talent pool. It assesses candidates before hiring permanently, and it also allows the candidates to assess the firm before accepting a permanent position. It increases the attraction of new candidates at all levels. Just the existence of this type of program is attractive to diverse candidates at any level. It supports a female talent pipeline, and it's a cost-effective way to recruit new professional members of your team.
So now, so now we're going to talk about the framework for the returnship. So the She's Welcome Here website attempts to provide a connection between prospective employers and returners in the AE industry, but it also offers details on how the returnship relationship works, especially for those firms that are not familiar with the arrangement. The host firm should be looking at the position as one that has the goal of eventual permanent employment. So this is not a temp situation. This is in hopes of building that employee. It's also important that the individual returner has a dedicated advocate, somebody that can serve as a resource for onboarding, questions, and the general layout of the firm and its culture. It's recommended that this person be in a similar position in the company to provide technical know-how in addition to some of the day-to-day procedures to the returner. It's also recommended that returnships period run from 6 to 16 weeks, offering enough time for the returner to learn the ins and outs of their projects, firm culture, and industry shifts since they served full-time in the past. That said, the returnship system recognizes the demands that may still exist for somebody that was forced to leave the industry. This could be caretaking duties, childcare, deployment, or an outside factor impacting a 9-to-5 schedule. As such, the most successful returnships will provide flexibility in hours, initially providing a flexible or part-time arrangement. It's also important that the firm recognize that a returner may need to be reacclimated to the firm environment to be successful. This includes consistent communication with HR, but also orienting the returner with new firm software and technical tools that may have developed since their absence. Finally, if a firm plans to continue the returnship program, a firm should always evaluate, both during and after, to see how to make the experience most beneficial for both parties as it moves forward. We also provide a framework for a returnship for the returner. Our website details the ideal circumstances that one should bring to the firm. So this person should likely have been employed for at least 5 years prior to their hiatus. In order for this arrangement to be truly useful, the individual have typically been out of the industry for at least 2 years. However, as we look at the drastic shift in employment for women during the COVID-19 pandemic, as previously mentioned, we now think this could easily be shifted to 1 year to regain some of that talent that's been lost. And then obviously, this individual will be seeking ongoing employment after getting initiated through the Returnship program. So they must have the understanding that this will be full-time going forward as well. In addition to our framework for the relationship, our website also offers best practices for both the firm and the returner to ensure a successful transition. For the firm, a successful returnship will not only provide technical and software refreshes, but recognizes the amount of time the individual has been away from the office and operational environment. As we previously mentioned, flexibility will be key in reacclimating the returner as they re-enter the workforce. While providing compensation is always important, some returners may also appreciate an environment that provides commuting support, health insurance, or continuing education separate from pay as they begin to develop themselves further as an employee. Expect the individual returner to take some time to reacclimate to the office environment, systems, and technical programs that have changed. To make this process smoother, firms should link them with a team member to guide them and become a sounding board for questions and concerns in a less threatening setting. While it's always helpful to provide structure and transparency when it comes to the returner's role and what's expected, a firm should also provide the returner with outlets to learn about other functions on the team. Finally, as we mentioned, a close team and even a specific mentor will provide the returner with a solid home base for checking in throughout the process. Final best practices that we've also thought firms should be thinking about. While this project was certainly built to address a leak in our pipeline in women's careers, the returnship opportunity can be made available for all employees, women and men, as they leave the workforce for various reasons surrounding childcare. Again, that could be illness, caretaking, or military deployment. This model will provide any individual with the means to come back to the industry and back to your firms. And while it may be hard, depending on firm size and space accommodation, it can actually be easier to support multiple returners at once. They often build a cohort and find it productive to grow as a group for support. Finally, a firm's first inclination will be to update the returner on the newest tools, technical program, and shifting client needs than that individual is used to. But employers should also consider providing professional development, such as writing workshops, leadership training, and networking opportunities with clients. The returner will likely need to be brought up to speed in all assets of working for the firm rather than just the technical information that they may have missed.
Well, I am excited to have learned what a returnship was through this group and this program, and I'm ready to get involved. I am currently seeking for that lost talent pool that has left our industry and really excited to offer them a friendly, warm invite back. Come back. We need you here. So how do you get involved? We have a website. So on the ElevateHER Zweig website, there's a returnship link up at the top, as long as all of the other ElevateHER cohort 2021 groups, which are fantastic. So take a look. But we're going to focus in on the returnship. Once you go to this site, we're just going to scroll down and we'll see all of these questions that have come to your mind that have been answered today, as well as more. We can refresh ourselves on what this was, what we talked about, and then share it with others around you. Just keep scrolling down on the website. We get back to those best practices, kind of help your firm maybe write their returnship program for the first time, or if you're seeking employment again, kind of look out for things that you might want to ask for, that you might want to consider as you are returning back into the workforce. Keep scrolling down, and here's where we get to the real stuff. So if you're ready to return to the workforce, you're going to click on Return to Work. Once you click on that page, you will see an entry form. So it gives you a bit of information, a place to upload your resume, a place to describe yourself, what you're looking for, your years of experience, licensure status, all of those good details, as well as it'll generate that list of job postings that are already available. So you can scroll through the firms that have signed up. You see there, these are made up firms right now, don't click on them, but there will be real ones populated. So if you were looking for a marketing director position in Austin, Texas, you can click on there, read about that, see how you might fit it and cater your resume to that position. If you are a firm looking to hire or post a job, very similar. Back on that last page, click on Find Talent Now, and your form pops up. And so this is where the company is going to brag about their returnship policy. Become that attractive firm to work for others out in the field. Really recruit that talent that we've lost. As Heather mentioned, and what has been mentioned on many of Zweig websites, it is a real challenge to find experienced talent right now. So this is a great way to become attractive out in the marketplace, set yourself apart from the other firms. And then if we keep scrolling down, no, that's it. We got it done. We got it done. We're there. Now we're ready. So what happens when you fill out the forms is it goes into the Zweig pool. They input that information, and when there's a match, Zweig will help coordinate that match. So we're excited about this program. And now that you know what it is, what was it, 73%, Shirley, that had never heard of a returnship? But now that you have heard a very brief overview today, how likely is your company to create a formal returnship or program and or participate if you are a returner? We have our one last poll.
Yes, and I'm failing y'all with this poll. Katie, on your end, could you try to launch it? I'm failing y'all. If not, let's everyone just use the chat function to tell us how you would like to implement this.
Yeah, it's not letting me launch it either for some reason.
Darn it. So let's move this over to the chat and
That's
see.
no problem. So why don't we start with some questions that have come in, and if anybody has questions as we answer them or things start to hit you throughout the next few minutes, feel free to send those in on the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll be monitoring that accordingly. So the first question we got, is there an ideal firm size to offer a returnship program?
An ideal size, there's not an ideal. There's a variation depending on the size of your firm. You know, Katie mentioned a bit of a cohort onboarding. And if you have the firm size or just the talent need, there are great benefits to that. But we recognize that some firms are hiring a total of one person. So a cohort doesn't apply. So being able to focus your returnship program around your current needs and making sure that you're hitting the big key boxes. Do they have someone that they can shadow? Do they have access to resources? Katie, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, you know, we think that in the event that you are a smaller firm and you're pulling on a returner, it's actually a really nice way to implement your culture, your way of doing things, your programs, your clients in a more structured and targeted way. So yes, we realize that at that point you won't have that cohort built, but you are going to have the opportunity to have one-on-one time with that person, knowing that it's a smaller group. They'll probably have more hands-on opportunities as well. So the larger cohort may not be necessary anyway. So this is all to say there is no ideal firm size. And in general, it's very likely that a small firm will have its benefits and so will a large firm. They just might be different. Okay, we have another one come in. Do you have any statistics of how many women or potential employees are out there seeking this? I know it's a problem for women leaving the workforce, but don't know that amount that are trying to come back to the profession after leaving for a significant amount of time.
We do not.
I think that's a great comment. And I think our hope here is that we know that there's a lot of talent out there that, given the platform, we think would be much more interested. The current on-ramps, as Heather's quote gave us, are pretty strict. You're either new or you've been working. There's not a lot of this language surrounding it.
I also think, given the adaptation of this program in other industries, right? So it's been very successful in Silicon Valley and a lot of the companies that Heather listed in her portion of the presentation. We do believe there's a need for this. And, you know, when we're looking at the many solutions available to bringing these people back into the industry, providing that flexibility, providing that on-ramp, as Heather mentioned as well, is going to be a key factor in these people being most comfortable coming back. As for how many of them respond to it, I think time would tell. But it does seem like an easier way to bring these people back into the industry, knowing that they may have left, especially due to COVID-19 restrictions, and hopefully those will eventually be alleviated and we can get those people back in a more seamless way. So somebody asked, could you please provide more information on what the evaluation phase of the returnship would look like? So in my mind, the evaluation phase of a returnship would look very similar to the evaluation phase of an internship or even your full-time employees. What you want to do is make sure that that individual is feeling supported, that there is a happy medium between getting experience, feeling like they're learning more, but also taking ownership of that role in the new work environment. And that said, you could also use that opportunity to learn more about the operations in your firm. Are they inclusive? Does that person feel welcome on the team? And those kind of conversations that you may generally have with, again, a departing intern or a departing employee as an exit interview, or if you're having a mid-career evaluation question, a lot of those will apply here.
And Katie, just to tack onto that, I think the evaluation, one, it allows you to improve on your returnship program, but also it acts as almost like a stay interview. So, you know, retaining staff and figuring out what you guys are doing well and what you also need to maybe look at revising as you move forward in the company, and not just the returnship, but the company as a whole.
So do you have real life examples of AEC firms that have implemented this? I actually don't. I think that's really what attracted us to this idea. This is a fairly new concept. I think it's even though Goldman Sachs obviously implemented in 2008, 2016 was really the first time they allowed it to take off. So it was a very new idea for Americans in general. It's been pretty well circulated through Europe and Australia. But really the point of the She's Welcome Here website is finding people that are interested on both sides. And I think that's going to be the first step. And She's Welcome Here, what's really important about it is specifically for our industry. So you can go to many returnship websites out there. They exist, but none of them are specifically for our industry. And because of that, it's less likely that they're going to have an understanding of the constraints of our particular positions, clients, and structures in general. Can you talk about compensation structure? I imagine this is an important but challenging part of setting up a successful returnship.
Takers, that's a tough one.
I can take it.
Like anonymous attendee, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know that is. I mean, it's and I'll let Heather pick up after this because I know that she has the most overarching understanding of the firms that she runs. But in general, I believe it's by no means a full-time salary, because it's, this is a kind of a test run situation, but there does need to be some value added to that individual's contribution. And so the compensation piece is really important. It would be up to the firm. The website itself actually does have a linking option, right? So everything that you put in as an employer matches what the returner is putting in for their needs. And that does include compensation. And that does include, if you can look through the candidates and what they need and kind of get an idea of what would need to be necessary, and then pick the candidates that best align with what you're available to provide. Because as a reminder, this is intended to become an ongoing position in the firm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to speak to that too. It depends on the state that you're operating in, but the state of Colorado, where we're based, has pay bands that we have to publish. So it's really about transparency in the process. It's about paying people according to their experience, and it's about being upfront. And again, it becomes something that you would structure specific for your situation. If you have someone who's working part-time, that's going to look different than someone who's working full-time. There may be some kind of an interim pay while they're in the returnship program. And then once they're hired on permanently, there's a step up. There's all kinds of ways to structure it, or maybe it's a signing bonus. Some of this, the whole point of the returnship program in this whole presentation is really about bringing what has worked for these large stock held companies and some of these international firms to these small to mid-sized firms. Each returnship program is slightly different, even at that very large company level. We're trying to kind of provide some guidelines for the firm to create the most successful situation. And so compensation obviously fits into that.
And I will say, right, this is the returnship it's a trust building period, right? You're testing out the candidate or the returner, they're really testing out the company, and ultimately with the goal of hiring them on full time, especially with how hard it is right now to recruit talent. So with that being said, perhaps the compensation is purely financial and there's no benefits. Perhaps that returner wants benefits, and so therefore there's a trade-off with the salary. I think the returnship has so much flexibility in it that can really be structured to what works best for you as your company, with no specific rules to it. But I will say we hire a lot of interns at my firm, and they're great because it's a great way to bring them up through the firm culture. And also we pay them well, but we don't pay them that much, and they can really like crank out work. I'm just being real here. This is different at a returnship level. We are talking about experienced professionals, who have at least 3 to 5 years in the industry who we're trying to bring back in. So that's just something to note, that it's not an equivalent to an internship in that regard.
Can you elaborate on the quote unquote other professional development skills and training you mentioned, which included resume writing, and the rationale for that? Are you suggesting the firm or the ElevateHER program would be helping candidates update their resumes? I don't think our firm leaders would support providing this type of program, which is a cost to employers, by also helping our valued staff work on their resume for other positions elsewhere.
I think that was a bit of confusion of the way I said it. So I was suggesting when you are uploading, when you're able on that returner page to upload your resume, you will see a list of the firms that have already posted positions. So that was just my personal anecdote of, I would suggest you read those positions and maybe cater your resume specific to a position now that you have them out there available to you. Not suggesting that that be part of the returnship program.
I will say, Jana, in Katie's presentation on best practices, it did mention resume writing for interns, I think was where the question may have came from. And that bullet point overall was talking about a comprehensive program that a company may implement. So a returnship would be one aspect of that kind of follows that career timeline that Heather talked to as well, where you have an internship and you have a returnship and flexibility, and you have to provide professional development throughout an employee's career. So that wasn't specific to a returnship, for clarity. That was more an overall employee development program and the steps that would be included in such.
Right. And further along with that, when we did talk about that kind of professional development for the returner, it would be far more advanced than resume writing, right? So we're looking at networking opportunities, understanding client relations. So if you're going to have this person come on full time, they're going to be rusty. They may not have interacted with a client in 2 or 3 years. They may not have used Zoom. So there's a lot of little aspects of our workforce culture that is consistently shifting, especially in the past 2 years. And because of that, it's important that you expect not just to say, I need you to understand CAD, but I also need you to understand how we interact with our clients. I also need you to understand writing a proposal. There are many aspects of the position that are consistently evolving. So you want to expect that some career development and other parts of the position are going to be necessary outside of just that technical stuff. That was really all that was about. And yes, we were likening resume building for an intern as similar to other professional development that you would provide a returner in the same vein.
With that, I would like to say we actually had someone, it wasn't specifically a technical position, but an admin position, who had been out of the accounting world for about 5 years. And we hired her back or we hired her on, and she never used dual screens before, and Outlook was new to her. And so it took a little bit of time to onboard her than it would someone that was continuing in that profession. So that's an example too. We had to kind of take a step back and realized that there was more that we had to do to bring her on board and feel comfortable with the technology that she was missing for 5 years.
Have you considered developing a logo or branding for firms that are offering and supporting ElevateHER returnships, or positions and following the best practices for this for firms to use on their websites or in their job postings?
Love that idea.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, and you've even seen on LinkedIn lately, it says like open for hiring, or, that might be another possible. I'm sure that's kind of an intricate LinkedIn edition, but something like that, so that when an individual is looking through the details of a firm, they can kind of know from the get-go that if they're looking for a returnship, it would be supported in that environment. Absolutely. Are any presenters firms planning to implement the returnship program in their firms right now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I can't give a hard yes, but I have been talking with our HR department about it and how to, I think for us, one of the biggest challenges, how do you get the word out? How do you find the candidates? And that's one thing I love about Zweig and our ElevateHER website. It's a way to connect the returners and the companies. And so I think that will be one resource, but another one is how do you other than on LinkedIn, maybe Facebook, how do you find those people, right? Because that's the biggest thing. We know they're out there, just we need to find them and bring them back.
Yeah, and I think that was really, I just want to say, that was really the way our project evolved. I think that we started our project thinking about why do they leave? And as we read more about COVID and the many reasons why somebody may leave, it became more important to get them back, especially knowing that looking across the board, COVID has impacted people so heavily. And we do hope for a day where life gets back to normal and our kids are in school regularly, and this isn't something that we have to think about constantly, in which case those people deserve to come back to the industry and have a lot of value to add.
I got a definitive yes on my firm from our president.
I'll say it happened right here. From your experience, what is the first big hurdle and how are you overcoming that?
Well, I think understanding what a returnship was.
Yeah.
Kind of diving into what is it? Oh, there's this whole other group out there, just kind of wrapping your head around this whole idea that there's this idle talent ready to come be huge contributors.
I think getting the word out too is maybe a challenge. I actually joined another group. It's called the Mom Project, and it's a returnship. And I was looking for civil engineers, and there were none in the pipeline. And so that to me shows that it's not, the word isn't out, and that's a challenge. And I think that we're all committed to get the word out and bring people in so we can make those connections with firms that are looking for talent, and those people that have left the industry and want to come back, but maybe they don't feel welcome or comfortable, or maybe a little nervous to get back into the group. So I see that as a challenge for sure.
Speaking personally as a returner, there is a ton of talent on the sidelines that I know of personally that are looking. The kids get older, they have more time, they're looking for a way to get back involved. And so getting the word out is a big part of it. I feel like there's a lot of hesitation around entering the workforce without the expression of flexibility that they may need. And I think from the firm side of things, it's an obstacle. I think COVID has helped a lot of firms realize the importance of creating the flexibility for workers, or whether it be online or flexible hours or hybrid work, whatever. But it also goes further. I think a hurdle for the firm beyond providing the flexible scheduling is creating the programs that appeal, the progressive HR programs that appeal to the returners, the family leave, the PTO, the whatever it may be that goes a bit above and beyond the standard firm. Those are the ones that are going to capture these people. They're further along in their career. They kind of know what they want and they understand their value. And so from the firm side, I do see that as a potential hurdle as well.
If a company already has a robust internship program, how different would their returnship program need to look? So I can take that. I think it's all going to be about the level of skill and the level of content that you expect out of the individual. So it's you might have an internship learning about things like company culture and frankly how to work in an office that you can assume that level of knowledge is there and that level of understanding client relations will be there. Well, the refresh and the need to understand how things will shift is certainly going to be a lot more of the emphasis. And then, the emphasis is also going to be on that higher level content that you can expect they understand, but may need a refresh and familiarity. And that's a little bit more high level than I think you'd expect out of an intern. You also want this information to be considered long lasting. You want to really introduce that cultural side of things. I think that with internships, I can't speak to anything other than the interns I've had and myself as an intern, but it's often about those individual projects. It's often about learning about new skills. I think when you're talking about a returnship, it's a lot more high level. It's a lot more, connecting the dots about a long-term client relationship. What is client analysis? How do we do that here? That kind of information is going to be a lot more robust and a lot more high level. And that's the kind of things that you really want to teach to someone that you assume is going to be on the team long-term. And don't forget, these people are still considered mid-career. So they are bringing a decent amount of background and experience to the table. There's just been a little bit of a gap since they've brought it to the table, so to speak. Anything else? Who do you see the responsibility and burden of designing the program to fall on? Would it be more HR or more technical?
Ooh, that's a good one. I see it as a partnership. I think there's an HR component to this. It's hard to ignore, especially with the need for the more progressive HR programs that I mentioned earlier. However, it's also has to have a big technical component, a management component. I don't think you can separate them. I think if you're going to do this for an internship program and, kind of Katie, what you were saying about you basically break down that job. What is the job they're coming into? You break it down into its components and you provide the guidance to that person for whatever level they're coming into. I don't see that as any different for an intern. Obviously, the subject matter is different, but the internship program and the way it's designed seems to me to be a partnership, just like the returnship program, just a little bit different subject matter. And I just don't think you can do it with one or the other. I think it would have to be both.
I also think it's important for this relationship to be most successful, especially with the absence of a full cohort or even with the presence of a cohort, to be honest with you, that you have the entire team with which the returner is working on board and kind of on all hands on deck in terms of assisting the person, right? So, there needs to be an openness and a transparency with the employees as well about what this person is to the company, their future at the company, so that employees are also providing that ongoing support and just mentorship for that person joining the firm. I think that's going to be the most successful relationship on both sides.
Are there more questions or comments from you guys actually on here on a closing note, maybe?
You know, in a closing note for me, I just think this is a really fascinating, interesting, and to me, very innovative way of bringing these people back. And I think that it takes the burden away from both the firm and the returner in that the relationship is very transparent and the intention on both sides is so clear. And having a match there where the individual gets what they're searching for with respect to the work environment, whether it be pay, whether it be benefits, if that's something that's interesting to them, can really take the onus off of the process and off of the returner of needing to be, am I up to speed? I feel inadequate. I'm too nervous to do this. I'm just not going to come back. I think that this really provides that open door that some of our mid-career talent needs to come back knowing that the responsibilities that brought them out of the industry are hopefully gone. And even if they are still there, a way to make it work on both sides.
Yeah, I love that it makes the gap in the resume irrelevant.
Yeah, it's just, like I said earlier, it's another tool in your tool belt. We need a variety of options to pull from, especially when recruiting is our biggest challenge that we're facing. And the more options we have to bring in that talent, the better it is for our firms and for our employees as well, and gives us an opportunity to look at our programs and our HR policies and make sure that we are inclusive to everyone, which is another benefit as well.
So if there's no more questions from the audience, we are happy to give everyone about 5 minutes back early, but we share the website on the chat earlier. So for everyone to really take a look and give us feedback as well, we'll welcome all of those and we will respond, I think. And that's all from today. Thank you for a very engaging session. This is a great discussion. It really shows there is a need here. It's a great idea. We need to together make it happen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for
Thank
joining.
you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.